See, this and you get the difference of Good morning. And welcome to this service of worship at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tucson. My name is Thomas Gregg, and I will be your worship associate for this morning. Our community is striving to become as varied as the blooms of the Sonoran Desert. Whoever you are, whoever you have been, and whoever you are becoming, I invite you to bring your whole self here now. We no longer require that masks be worn in worship or in concurrent religious education. If you are feeling sick, we encourage you to join us from home on YouTube. Based on our last poll, UUCT members are committed to being fully vaccinated and boosted. For all of our sakes, especially those most vulnerable, please let's maintain that commitment. If you need to use the bathroom, there are 2 gender-inclusive bathrooms through the door to your left, down the hallway, and take the first left. I extend a special welcome to visitors and invite you to fill out a guest information card, which are located in the Welcome Center to your left and behind you, and in the newcomers section of our website. We will meet for social hour after the service right here in Goddard. There will be coffee, iced tea, lemonade, some snacks, actually some lunch, and of course, good company. And I will now turn it over to Reverend Bethany, who has some announcements to share.
I wrote a 2,000-word sermon, but the announcements might beat it. So buckle in. If you would like to give any feedback to your board about the peace amendment to Article 2, which we've been talking about and we had a discussion about last week, Wendy, I'm going to say she's going to be at this table where she's sitting at right now. Other board members might be there. Go and talk to her during social hour. If you have been visiting our church for a while and feel like you want to make it more your home and officially sign our book, please meet me in the Welcome Center behind you and to your left after worship. We will be able to sign the book and we will celebrate our new members. We have lunch today. It is $5. It's deli sandwiches left over from the memorial we held here yesterday, but they are delicious, and there are some being freshly made, so they're not just leftovers. And they're good sandwiches, I can attest. We are reimagining our nominating committee and leadership development processes. If any of those things interest you, and if you don't know what they are, they don't interest you yet, I imagine. If they are interesting to you, come see me or Sam Meyer, who I imagine is in the kitchen today. Howard Tolley will be explaining the legal and political issues confronting the U.S. Supreme Court at 12:15 today, right after worship, in the Servetus room. All points of view and questions are welcome in response.
Trump and the Supreme Court.
Trump and the Supreme Court at 12:15. Trump and the Supreme Court.
Cases in the Supreme Court.
Seasonal members, friends, and visitors will bring a potluck, are invited to bring a potluck dish to share here to UUCT for lunch at noon this coming Wednesday, January 14th. People who come should also bring their own beverages, dishware, and utensils. Your Healthy Congregations team and I are revisiting the draft covenant, which has been in draft form for a number of years now. We are trying to move this towards a more completed version and picking up where a former team left off. So if you are interested in the covenant of this congregation, the ways we are together, our agreements about how we are together, when we are together, these forms are in the Welcome Center if you'd like a physical form to give feedback on. You'll also get an email this week inviting virtual feedback, which will be a very simple Google form to fill out. So have a look out for that, or go pick up a physical form in the Welcome Center after worship. And you can submit them in a box in the Welcome Center, or that box will move to the church office this week. And finally, our annual auction is coming up on Saturday, February 10th from 5 to 8 p.m. This year's theme is Sing It Blue and will feature jazz music. There will be hearty appetizers, drinks, and desserts during a silent auction, followed by a live auction. Tickets are $15, and you can buy one today from Barbrica during social hour. And Barb will also have forms if you would like to donate something to the auction. If you'd like to volunteer, talk to Beth Britton, who will likely be in the Welcome Center after worship today, and we do need volunteers. The question for you to ask your neighbor today as we move towards worship together is, what is an opinion you once held that has changed? What is an opinion you once held which has changed? I invite you to turn to a neighbor and ask them that question and give them your answer. It's interesting how quickly we move from fear of a question to nonstop talking about a question. Our words on this Sunday of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. weekend come from Reverend Rosemary Bray McNatt's essay in the Unitarian Universalist Pocket Guide on Faith. She writes, "By no means are we Unitarian Universalists perfect. We often fail as much as we succeed. Yet even times when we have broken our vows 1,000 times, we will return to the essential work of justice and liberation for all. We do the work best when we remember what church is and what it is not. Church is not a place to hide. It is not the place to get away from the world. It is not a place where we get to pretend that the lives we live and our particular situations are not terribly complex, often confusing, and sometimes depressing. Church is the place where we stand with one another, look the world in the eye, attempt to see clarity, and gather strength to face what we see with courage and, yes, with joy. Come, let us worship together." Our chalice lighting words come from Reverend Tanya Marquez. I invite you to read them with me as soon as they are on the screen. "It is now, when we are called as witnesses of the world, to mend it, to change its course, to restore it. It is now, when we are called to act on our values, not to hide, not to fear, but to be bold and loud. It is now, when we are called to continue our fight for justice, to organize, to speak up. It is now. Let us gather. Let us give each other courage. Let us worship." And now, if you are joining us on YouTube and have a chalice or candle nearby, I invite you to light that with us now as we light our chalice here in Goddard.
Our first song this morning is "We Rise," and consequently we should rise if you are able. It has few words and few notes. Some of you know it, some of you don't. You'll be able to catch it very quickly. If you catch it, start making up new notes and harmonize. So, if you know it, join in with me on "We Rise." Humbly hearted, rise. Won't be divided, rise. With Spirit to guide us, rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here, and we rise. All of the children rise. Elders with wisdom rise. Ancestors to guide us rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here, and we rise. Up from the wreckage, rise. With tears and with courage, rise. Fighting for life now, rise. In hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here. In hope, in prayer, we're right here. Thank you. Please be seated.
Our earth is strong. It can hold our pain and our joy, our love and our anger. Our shared bowl, which we use for joys and sorrows each week, is strong enough to hold the big rocks, our collective celebrations and mournings, and also the smaller stones that will be added to signify our individual joys and sorrows. Let us remember those desert people who came first in this place. We honor the Hohokam, the Yavapai, the Tohono O'odham, the Yaqui, and the people who no longer exist as tribal entities here in Arizona. We who live in the desert know that water is a life-sustaining and scarce resource. Let's remember those who are walking through our desert right now without access to water. We also bring to mind those who are seeking to assure greater access to water in the desert. We pour water from a plastic jug, similar to the ones used by our ministry partner, No More Deaths. If you have a joy or a sorrow to share, I invite you to go to menti.com and put in the code 2245-5507. If you're here in the sanctuary and you need help, adding your thoughts to Menti, Brian Moon can help. And if you are here in person, I now invite you to come up to the table and create ripples of hope by putting a stone into the water to symbolize your joy or sorrow. Please form a line down the middle aisle and return to your seat using the outside aisles.
We'll read our Menti responses before our prayer. We love you. We love you. Thank you. Perfect. Oh, hooray. Someone writes, my sister and brother-in-law are in town. Welcome, sister and brother-in-law. Hope you enjoy Tucson. Enjoyed a very nice choir party yesterday. Good food and good people. Amen. It's the choir. Glad you gathered. Yes, it was bittersweet to gather with others who missed Judy Dare yesterday and remember her. What a celebration of a well-lived life, and I miss her so much. I know along with many of you. I'm so proud of my child, Vic, for standing up to their friends against bullies at school despite being bullied themselves. Go, Vic, and go parents of Vic. Joy for the fellowship and fun during the UUCT choir potluck at our home yesterday from Steve Kranek. I invite you to carry all these joys and sorrows submitted and those we hold in our hearts into this time of prayer, meditation, contemplation, whatever that looks like and feels like for you and your particular body. Our words for prayer are called Fierce Urgency by the Reverend Ashley Horan. She writes, my 4-year-old daughter taught me this lesson. When a child wants to derail business as usual, to curb the hubris of adults who dare believe in schedules and plans and productivity, one fierce little body and one clear, piercing voice, strategically applied to the right pressure point, will change the course of the day's events. She continues, my comrades in organizing have taught me this lesson. When a silenced people want to be heard, to raise from dry bones a living, breathing dream of new ways of moving, being, incarnating freedom, one small, tenacious group whose hearts beat in rhythm, rising shoulder to shoulder against the inevitable, will bend the arc from impossibility to hope. Our young climate leaders are teaching us this lesson. When the grown-ups and the old movements are too slow, as the sea levels rise and the hurricanes rage and the migrants flee and the corporations profit, one generation, both young and silenced, refusing to accept an inheritance of doom, will take towards the streets and move us towards life. Blessings upon them as they teach us, organize us, beckon us in, and call us out. May their fierce urgency and uncompromising clarity show us the path towards healing and freedom and hope. Blessed be, Ashe, and Amen.
I'm grateful to be led by Melanie DeMore in our next song. A video will play, but I encourage you to join in.
I will be.
With her. You'll see.
I will be your standing stone. I will stand by you. I will be your standing stone. I will stand by you. And when you feel it, you rise. And we think about all the people out there who don't have a voice. This is our time to sing and hold them up. Nod your head if you understand what I'm saying. So when you feel it, and not before, because your heart will tell you when. I will be your standing stone. I will stand by you.
That's a hard act to follow. Our reading comes from Reverend Julian Jamaica Soto from their book, Spilling the Light. They write, "To the people who have mistaken freedom for liberation. To be free, you must embrace the breadth of your own existence, without apology, even if they try to take it from you. You must know not that you can do whatever you want. You are not a kudzu vine, eating entire hillsides for the purpose of feeding your own lush life. You must know instead that inside you are entire universes, milky blue, magenta, and gold, expanding. But to actually be free, you must know and you must fight for the entire universes inside of everyone else. Being free is not a license, but a promise."
Do you know the story of Fred Hampton? Anybody? That's a few. Well, if you don't, Fred Hampton became known nationally as a civil rights leader when he was deputy chairman of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party. Fred was born in 1948 and grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. He was just 7 years old when his family friend, Emmett Till, was abducted and murdered while visiting family in Mississippi. That tragedy, along with Hampton's experience of racism in the Chicago suburbs, was a transformative moment for him. He devoted the rest of his life to racial justice. Hampton was 18 years old when the Black Panther Party was founded in Oakland, California in 1966. And while Hampton had been active in the NAACP in high school, a series of violent interactions with police led him to leave that organization and help found the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party in 1968. Hampton quickly assumed the deputy chairmanship of that chapter, and in that role he oversaw the implementation of a free medical clinic in Chicago and a free breakfast program for children in that city. The later program was done by many Black Panthers chapters, was the inspiration for the U.S. Department of Agriculture's National School Breakfast Program. Hampton also organized the first iteration of the Rainbow Coalition in Chicago. This coalition brought the Panthers of Illinois together with other organizations working for racial justice in Chicago and in that state. These organizations, these cross-racial organizations, had never worked together before, and Hampton helped them work through their differences to see the power they could have together. With their pooled resources, they were able to better serve all of the cash-poor people in Chicago. Almost as soon as the chapter started, Hampton was put on the FBI's watch list by then Director J. Edgar Hoover. When another chapter leader, William O'Neill, was arrested for stealing a car and driving it while intoxicated, the FBI pressured O'Neill to be their informant on Hampton in exchange for the charges to be dropped. In December 1969, after receiving intelligence and apartment floor plans from O'Neill, Chicago police conducted a raid in the middle of the night on the apartment where Hampton and other party leaders were living. By the end of that raid, Hampton and one other resident of the apartment were dead. Fred Hampton was just 21 years old. Early in my ministry, I inherited from a mentor, Reverend Sunshine Wolf, a practice of telling the story of a civil rights leader other than Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on this Sunday in January. Many, many others on the radio and around town are telling you different stories of Reverend Dr. King this weekend. Drawing attention to other leaders in the civil rights movement is our annual reminder that no movement can be defined by one person's vision and philosophy. Movements are about the people, not the leader. And I will admit that Fred Hampton's story, more than what I've been able to tell here, is not without its challenges for me. I know that many of us, even good liberals, carry certain assumptions when we hear about the Black Panther Party. But before we put ourselves in the place of needing to agree or disagree with the philosophy and the tactics of that political party and Hampton as a leader, I want us to ask ourselves if we have really tried to understand the motivation. When it comes to racial justice in the United States, many white folks, myself included, have some work to do in understanding before jumping to the agree or disagree. In one of his speeches titled "Power Anywhere There's People," Hampton began by telling a story about stop signs. He explained that there was a problem at a four-way intersection in Oakland, California, where the Black Panther Party was founded. A number of pedestrians had been hit by cars and some of them killed at this single intersection because there were no traffic indicators. The community, seeing this trend, went to the city with their concerns, and the city did nothing. Again and again, the community went to their city council with their concerns, but still they refused to fix the problem. So Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, the two founders of the Black Panther Party, got together. They got their shotguns and some stop signs and a hammer, and they went to that intersection and they installed the signs themselves. The accident stopped, and so did the deaths and injuries. The next time the community needed a stop sign, Seale and Newton did the same thing. They got their guns and some stop signs and a hammer, and they installed it themselves. After seeing this a few times, the community began to take on the role that the two civil rights leaders had modeled. They just started installing their own stop signs when and where they needed them. Now, some people hear this story and they focus on the guns. A lot of the media around the Black Panther Party has focused on the guns. But at its root, this is a story about safety, community safety, the simple but vital value of a stop sign. Can you imagine? I know some of you can, feeling so uncared for, so unworthy of concern that a municipality would rather see people die than install stop signs. If I felt that abandoned by my city, by my state, by my country, I would go to great lengths to protect my community. And I would probably feel pretty differently about guns if I saw my community being shot and killed by people who are charged with protecting them. The programs that Fred Hampton supported as chairman of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, breakfast for children, free medical care for all, were as necessary as stop signs. Food and medical care are basic human rights. They keep us alive. Fred Hampton helped groups across Chicago representing people of many races and many classes understand the power they had together. And this power, which was also a power that was specifically and pointedly anti-law enforcement, was part of what made Fred Hampton's leadership a threat. Fred Hampton was assassinated by Chicago police because of the power of the coalition he led. And because that coalition was multiracial and multi-class and was focused on not just racial justice, but economic justice and community safety. Fred Hampton's story is not so dissimilar in that way from that of civil rights leaders our country honors this weekend. The civil rights leader our country honors this weekend. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was also assassinated just as he was shifting his focus to the Poor People's Campaign, which was about understanding the political and social conditions that led to poverty among communities of all races. It was when he had made that shift that he was assassinated, and there is reason to believe it's not a coincidence. If you haven't heard of Fred Hampton till this morning, you are not alone. I only first consciously heard his name within the past 10 years or so since the movement for Black Lives has started, and I heard his name evoked in speeches I personally attended and in media I was seeing, and I said, I've heard that name somewhere, but I have no idea about that story. And when I learned his story, I was sadly not surprised that it wasn't in our history textbooks. Just as I'm sadly not surprised that the stories of the community safety enacted by the Black Panther Party also isn't recorded in many history textbooks. It feels risky, to be honest, to tell Fred Hampton's story today. It feels risky, even in a good progressive congregation like ours, to draw attention to these radical edges of the progressive movement for civil rights. But if we are to claim a place on the progressive spectrum, we need to know and attempt to understand those who are holding the spectrum open and drawing it wider. We need to know this, not only to know where we stand, but also how we relate to those edges. Last week, when a few dozen of us gathered after worship to learn about and discuss the Peace Amendment to Article 2, Howard Tolley in that discussion, in my opinion, correctly articulated that our movement, Unitarian Universalism, is not a pacifist movement. Quakers and Mennonites are, but we have never claimed that solely. We are varied and different in our approaches to peace here. Some of us consider ourselves pacifists, and other of us consider war and violence to be necessary at times. In my observation, especially when we need to protect marginalized people and in cases of self-defense. So we hold a wide array of opinions here. Personally, looking back, I started my life as a casual pacifist, almost by default. I grew up Unitarian Universalist, surrounded by people who'd marched with King and been active in nonviolent movements. And I would have said probably, yeah, war is bad, violence is bad, there has to be another option or something like that. But I had to reconsider that position after watching the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017. It was not the riot of the neo-Nazis, but the experience of the counter-protesters that led me to reconsider how I could relate to the use of violence as someone who resides on the pacifist side of the spectrum. Many of the people who offered counter-protest at the Unite the Right rally were progressive clergy, including our then UUA president, Reverend Susan Frederick Gray. And after that rally, I heard directly from many of those progressive clergy. They said that they might have not survived, or they could have been critically injured, if not for the anti-fascist security partners assigned to accompany them who are willing to engage in defense on their behalf. Hearing this, I had to seriously reconsider and redefine my own pacifism. Can peace alone protect us, all of us? How do I, as someone who still claims mostly pacifist, relate to those progressive organizations whose values reflect mine, but who have anti-fascist or other political perspective which lead them to say that violence is permitted when necessary? Or put another way, how did those who learned nonviolence from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s civil rights movement relate to Malcolm X or Fred Hampton or Bobby Seale or Huey P. Newton or any other civil rights leader who intentionally did not practice nonviolence? Reverend Rosemary Bray McNatt wrote in those words I offered for our call to worship, "Church is not a place where we get to pretend that the lives we live and our particular situations are not terribly complex, often confusing, and sometimes depressing. Church is the place where we stand with one another, look the world in the eye, attempt to see clearly, and gather strength to face what we see." I hope I am not alone in needing to hear this reminder that I don't have to pretend here. I don't have to pretend that our world isn't complex and confusing. That this is a place here at church where we actually say, yeah, that's a hard thing. There is not an easy answer. I'll sit with that with you. When I want to know how I can possibly do the hard work of this world as a Unitarian Universalist, I almost always turn to Reverend Julian Jamaica Soto. You heard Tom read their words earlier this morning. They said that to be free, you must embrace the breadth of your own existence without apology. Ah, yes, that breadth. They continued, and you must know that you cannot do whatever you want. You must know and said that inside you are entire universes. You and your life are beautiful, just as they are. And they are growing and changing and shifting and expanding. We are capable of being made anew without losing any of our breadth. Reverend Soto finishes their short poem, "But to actually be free, you must know and you must fight for the entire universes inside of everybody else." To be clear, I did not share Fred Hampton's story today to convert anyone. I shared it to deepen the breadth of your own understanding of peace, nonviolence, violence, and oppression wherever you find yourself in those waters. I shared Fred Hampton's story so that we might grow the universes inside our own bodies by examining the universe inside another person who strove for justice just as we strive. Reverend Soto ends their poem, "Being free is not a license, but a promise." Freedom is not doing whatever you want. It is doing what your values require of you, which is, in part, a promise to create more justice. So as we stride into this year, 2024, an election year and all that come with that, yet another war-riddled year and all that comes with that. A year where oppression will continue and new learning will be made available to us as all years. As we embark on this year, may we embrace our own breadths, feel the universes within us growing, and seek freedom in the universes inside each other person we meet and know. It is not your freedom or their freedom, it is our freedom. Justice comes when we get free together. May we make it so. Blessed be, and amen.
Now, an offering will be collected to support the life and work of our congregation. If you are joining us on live stream, you can send a check to the office or give online at uuctucson.org/donate. If you're here in person, the ushers will come around now with the offering baskets to collect your donations.
Hi, friends. I'm out of town this weekend, but I wanted to share a story with you. Earlier in this service, Reverend Bethany told us a little bit about the Black Panther Party. Now, I'm not talking about Chadwick Boseman and the American superhero film based on the Marvel comics, although that would be fun to talk about. No, this is the Black Panther Party, a much maligned organization that existed from about 1966 to about 1982 in the US. In short, the Panthers were civil rights and human rights activists, militant revolutionaries, community organizers, and a political party. In a time when Black Americans were treated as second-class citizens, the Black Panther Party taught people how to fend for themselves and how to fend for each other. The story I want to share today is not about their political or civil rights work, but there's some overlap. It's about something as simple as breakfast. A breakfast which pushed the US federal government to take seriously for the first time the nutrition of poor, rural, and of Black youth. A young person named Aloya tells us more. And as we listen, I wonder what will surprise you. What do you already know? And how will what you learn inspire you?
So I'm doing my report on the Black Panthers and specifically on their free breakfast program for children. So in 1966, Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale founded the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense in Oakland, California. In January of 1969, the Black Panther Party actualized their first free breakfast program at the Father Earl Neal St. Augustine Episcopal Church in Oakland, California. Members cooked food, delivered it, and went door to door to inform people that food was available. On their first day, the Black Panther Party fed 11 children, but as word spread, by the end of the week, 135 kids took part in the party's benevolent service. By March of 1969, the Black Panthers opened another breakfast program in Oakland, San Francisco's Sacred Heart Church. The Black Panthers program soon influenced widespread breakfast programs all over the country, in every city that had a BPP branch. It was mandatory for them to also have the breakfast program, and with chefs, monitors, and people fundraising the grassroots organization to keep going. The congregations in Los Angeles fed 1,200 kids per week, and the New Orleans program nourished 300 kids weekly. Not only did the Black Panthers provide nutrients daily to help children's growth and development and strengthening often impoverished Black communities, but they also exposed the U.S. government's failure to address problems with poverty and malnourishment. The Black Panthers are often depicted as fear-mongering and incessantly violent people, but they are far more complex than that. Although the Black Panthers were dismantled by the FBI in the 1980s, along with their free breakfast program, they made a long-lasting impact on society. There have been several studies completed that report the correlations between eating breakfast and school performance, and how socioeconomic factors such as poverty impact children's academic achievements. So, to combat fatigue and low scores in academics, schools have implemented free in-school breakfasts and lunches for children that are below the poverty line. All students deserve the opportunity to prove themselves, and schools can help boost children that have simple problems such as malnourishment hindering them.
Have you ever had to go to school or to a work meeting hungry? It can make us feel tired and sluggish. It makes us hard to learn and to think. One thing this story teaches me is that average, everyday people can make a huge difference in the world through simple acts. Toast, grits, eggs. Feeding kids breakfast isn't a revolutionary act until it is. Many times, changing the world starts with doing a simple thing like breakfast, and doing that thing over and over again until 20,000 kids are being fed every day. That's revolutionary. And at that point, others begin to see how important it is. So there's my question for you. What simple, important thing will you commit yourself to this year that you will do over and over again to become a revolutionary?
Our last song today is Building a New Way. It's in the Teal Hymnal at 1017. And would you please rise and sing in response to Jamili's challenge, Building a New Way.
Our closing words come from Reverend Sarah S. Howell Miller. She writes, "May you feel your anger all the way down. That is, may you know that solid and singular as it looks, your anger may well be a false bottom. May you have the wisdom to leave it in place while it protects you. May you have the courage to pull it up when it no longer serves you. May you find below love that longs for full expression, pain that cries out to be healed, desire that whispers in the holy dark, righteous indignation that fuels the work of justice. May you one day swim and not drown in the depths of what your anger hides. May we all meet you there."